Is it upset time for Boston College, or are they in for trouble against Mizzou?
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm also the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Check out my work there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. It's prediction and preview time. We're getting to the Missouri-Boston College game, number 6 versus number 24. And as every Friday, we have Eagle Insider writer Mitchell Wolf here to talk about the game. Mitch, how's it going?
It's going well. I think we need to change my name to Eagle Insider Meatball Meme Extraordinaire after our little tiff with the Mizodcast and our little meme war going on with them.
Yep. So BC fans and Missouri fans are starting to get into it. As I've said on a couple different shows, that adds a little spice to this game, which otherwise you'd look at the two teams.
Which has no historical significance, which is nice.
I know. It adds a little zazz to it, which I think is great. So BC is the odds at 16.5, I think, last time I checked on FanDuel. And they're a heavy underdog going into this game. But this is a Boston College podcast, and I'm going to get yelled at by a whole bunch of Missouri fans in the comment section when we talk about this because I don't give them enough flowers, apparently. But we're going to talk about this. Let's get into this game, Mitch. Boston College, well-coached team, but how could they potentially pull off a big-time upset here on the road?
I think they pretty much need to deploy a very similar game plan, I would say on both sides of the ball, to the one they use against Florida State. You want to run the ball, control the clock, limit possessions. And I think that's the big thing, is that you don't necessarily, like, your defense doesn't have to be perfect, but if you reduce the number of possessions that Missouri has, it reduces the number of times they can score, obviously. And if they have, a mistake here or there and that kills a drive, that's huge. But if you give them if you keep going 3 and out and you're not wasting a lot of time, they're going to keep getting the ball back. And frankly, and eventually the defense will crack. Because like we've talked about, we think this defense has played pretty well, but Florida State is really not the team that we were led to believe they were. Duquesne is a pretty bad FCS team. And if you look back at the Florida State game, I think we can, if you think about it logically and realistically, BC got lucky a bunch of times with drops by Florida State, namely the tight end Kyle Morlock, and just awful throws by DJ Uiagalelei. And Brady Cook is not going to give you that many breaks with passes that were that inaccurate, and his receivers are a lot better, and they're not going to give you that many drops. It does look like Missouri's tight end Brent Norfleet is going to play. He missed the last game due to a shoulder injury. He's going to try to give it a go. He's a pretty good player as well, so that's something BC will have to be worried about. And then on defense, I think with Cook, he's a better quarterback than Uiagalelei, but I think if you're going to beat him, you want to do it in a similar way. He does struggle against the blitz a little bit. But because he's a pretty elusive runner, because it's kind of the mirror of how we talk about Thomas Castellanos. You don't want to blitz him a ton because then he's just going to escape out of the pocket and beat you with his legs. Obviously not to the degree of Castellanos, but he also is very experienced. And if you keep throwing blitzes at him, he's going to, as I call it, solve the answer. You're giving him answers to the test and he's going to solve it. So you don't want to blitz him too heavy. So I think you see Tim Lewis deploy a lot of those simulated pressures, simulated blitz looks where you only rush 4, but you bring them from odd places to confuse the offense. So that's kind of, again, you kind of have to redo the FSU game, but you have to play just as good in terms of penalties, better on special teams. And honestly, you have to kind of get lucky with both sides of the ball.
So do you think, if you were to, let's get the Missouri fans going here, because I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think Bill O'Brien's a better head coach than Eli Drinkwitz?
Oh man. I think that I don't know. I'm going to completely cop out of this. I think it's really tough to say because I think Bill O'Brien's strengths as a coach really are the minutia of details for game planning. I think he's a strong in-game decision maker. Even though he's not really a play caller on either side of the ball. So he's not doing that as much, I think Drinkwitz is good at a lot of the same things. I think where O'Brien would say is better than Drinkwitz is that moment we talked about in the Duquesne game where he calls the timeout to, rally the defense and yell at them and get them back where they need to be. That's not really Drinkwitz's style. Like I think his nickname, and I can't remember which podcast exactly coined it or if it's just the general nickname, but he's known as the Alpha Nerd because, this is a guy who comes out with a Darth Vader mask and a lightsaber after games. And, his name is Eli. So it's, he's kind of this, conundrum as a college football coach. I mean, I do think that Eli Drinkwitz is a very good college football coach. I think he's an excellent play designer. He's a good play caller, even though he's given up those duties. And he's we've shown he's a very good recruiter. That obviously doesn't matter in terms of the actual game once the ball is kicked off. But, I don't think that there's enough evidence to really say that either of them is a much better head coach than the other.
Should I just say that Bill O'Brien's a better head coach so I can get some hate views? Not just kidding. Okay, so I get your thoughts there, but let's talk about Castellanos here. And I also want to say that I've been on 3 Missouri podcasts now, and I don't think any of them know his name correctly. It's Castellanos.
To be fair, that is how Nick Castellanos, the baseball player from the Phillies, who is a pretty famous in his own right for maybe non-baseball reasons, but that's how most people know that name. So I can forgive that.
Okay. So what kind of game are you expecting out of him, and what does he need to do? I made a key on an episode this week that it's going to have to be, I think he's going to have to play he's going to have a Superman game, like where he just does a lot.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I part of me thinks that Bill O'Brien, Will Lawing have kind of been waiting to unleash him, honestly, because if you think about it, the Florida State game, like he didn't really have to do that much. Like there were a few times where he escaped out of pressure to avoid sacks, or they were technically sacks because he was tackled behind line of scrimmage on a pass. But he was, he made it they only lost a yard instead of 5. And in the passing game, didn't have to do a ton. Hit those wheel routes, had the deep miss to Reed Harris, had a few nice conversions through the air, and then at the end of the game, they started giving him the ball and designed runs. But again, didn't use him a ton. And then against Duquesne, they used him a ton of the passing game, obviously, but didn't really use him as a runner. Excuse me. And that game was kind of it's a unique one because Duquesne is a very overmatched opponent. So I think this game, you could see them open the offense even more and kind of just let Castellanos work. And I think that means more downfield, maybe not downfield, but more intermediate downfield passing. Giving him the option more to, like, if the throws aren't there, then just go. Because I think that obviously while Missouri has a good defense and they're an SEC defense, still think Thomas Castellanos is, going to be one of the better athletes on the field, just in terms of speed, explosiveness, all that stuff. So you want to let him get those chunk plays, especially if he can take care of the football, because obviously if he, starts kind of making those bonehead interceptions that he did last year or fumbles the ball, then things are going to get out of hand. But I do think that he will need to serve a more active role if BC is going to win this game.
All right. In a moment, let's flip the coin. Let's talk about what Missouri needs to do to win this game and how things could get out of hand for BC if they don't play the game carefully. We'll get into that in just a moment. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. With superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. You're wasting time and you're wasting money. So make sure you're linking LinkedIn because 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black, and we're talking about this upcoming game between Missouri and Boston College, the only ranked game on Saturday. I guess there's a ranked game tomorrow. I don't know if I forget.
It's Arizona, Kansas State,
right?
I believe.
And this is the Missouri guy told me this is the first non-conference game between two ranked opponents at Missouri's in like 40 years.
Yep.
Which is crazy. So Missouri is firing on all cylinders. They ended last year with a big bowl win in the Cotton Bowl, and then I believe it was a pretty ugly defensive game where it was a low scoring game against Ohio State where they won, and they have all this momentum going into the season. They started off 2-0 now. They've beaten Buffalo. They've beaten Murray State. We don't know, just like like people say about BC, you don't know what you don't know about them right now because they haven't really played anyone yet. But Mitch, talk a little bit about what you've seen from Missouri.
Yeah. So again, one thing to talk about and something I mentioned kind of earlier in the week was that, a lot of the teams in the top 25, they have, 2 blowout wins and both of them have come at home. So, at least with BC, you saw them go on the road against a conference opponent that does have a lot of talent and dominate them for 4 quarters. Missouri has, to their credit, shut out 2 opponents and won the 2 games by a combined score of 89-0. Watching the 2 games, it was the Murray State was a very funny one to start watching because on the first kickoff, Murray State kicks off, they kick an onside kick, and the kicker kind of runs up and turns around, and just before he starts diving to fall on the ball, he just gets his clock clean from behind, loses his helmet on the first kickoff, and Missouri recovers and gets a short field, and they score a few plays later. And then Murray State had a turnover. They went for it. It was 28-0 before you could even blink. So that one I was just like, okay, we're not really going to learn anything here. Buffalo is a little more interesting because Buffalo was very content to just take their time, grind the clock, play their corners really far off, make Missouri beat them underneath consistently. And Missouri had some hiccups early on. They had a lot. They've had some penalties in both games. Honestly, they've struggled with penalties, especially on the offensive line. And just missing some plays, having some drops, stuff like that. And then eventually the talent went out and they started figuring things out and they won 38-0. With Missouri, I do think they are a very talented, very deep team. I think that honestly, if any of their players weren't injured, they could replace, maybe besides Luther Burden, who is probably going to play, but he's an elite talent, but the next receiver on their depth chart, Theo Weiss, he would be the number 1 wide receiver on basically every other team in the Power 4 minus Ohio State or something. But and you look at the defense, again, I don't think this defense lost a lot of talent to the NFL. They lost Darius Robinson, defensive lineman, went in the first round. Both their corners, one of their starting linebackers, who is now playing with Jeff Halpy in Green Bay, and one of their safeties to the NFL. But there were guys they replaced them with. They're still very highly touted recruits, talented players, guys who've experienced. This is it's a very well constructed roster. So the guys who are coming up are not completely new to football. It's they're starting. There are 2 corners who are new. One of them played a good bit last year due to injuries by other players. The other one's a transfer from Clemson who's played a good bit. So it's just a very well-rounded defense. There maybe isn't a star there, but you think you just look at it I can't really find a weakness here. And one fun stat I found. So looking at defensive success rate, which is measured on expected points added or EPA, basically if you allow positive EPA. If you don't allow positive EPA, it's a successful play for the defense. The top 2 teams in defensive success rate in the FBS are number 1, Missouri, number 2, Boston College, which is fun. But with Missouri needing to win, as long as they don't have those mistakes that were in the Buffalo game where they're shooting themselves in the foot with penalties, they're having drops, they're taking bad plays, and again, it was a few and then they figured it out and the talent of the roster went out. But if those don't happen, and they can kind of just get things going, start off fast, and put BC in a hole, then they should be able to pretty much coast to the end. I think they're obviously going to want to get in a position where they force Thomas Castellanos to be a true drop back passer and kind of the inverse of what happened before. They want to make BC be the team that abandons the run game and has to throw the ball all over the yard because we haven't. It's a different offense. Thomas Castellanos is a different player, but we haven't seen him in a position where it's like you need to go out and win this game with your arm.
Gotcha. Okay. And what about how do you think BC's defense can stack up and slow down this offense? Or
honestly, I have a lot of doubts, and it's not. I think they can slow them down for like a half, maybe 3/4, but I think eventually, like Luther Burden is a really, really, really good player. Like he is kind of honestly like the way he is used and the way he plays, he is kind of a Lewis Bond on steroids, or like not literally, but in terms of like he's faster, he can win downfield more, but he's still very good after the catch. This team, and they don't have like a great running back, but they've got a few. They've got a good duo in Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll. And again, they're super deep wide receivers. So I just worry that they're going to be able to kind of spread BC out and expose them, because I will say, like, there were a few plays against Florida State when they did hit those big passing plays. BC's corners were, I think, for the most part in good position, but sometimes, they had some bad plays. Like the one that I think of is Max Tucker getting beat on that crossing route by Jalen Lucas, who's a very fast player. And as the Locked On BC guy, I forget his name, sorry. But as he mentioned, there's that guy named Speedy Johnson, who last year he averaged just under 30 yards a catch on only 13 catches, because they would just yeet the ball to him downfield. So, they've got a ton of speed. I think that is probably where BC's secondary is deficient. And, we've credited the safety play a lot this year with Carter Davis and KP Price being first-year starters. They've been really good in run defense, really good tackling. We haven't really seen them tested as coverage defenders. So that's what I'm worried about. And I think Tim Lewis will have a good game plan to do this, but I just think that eventually the talent, the athleticism of Missouri is going to win out in this game.
All right. In a moment, Mitch and I are going to give our predictions. I think you get a sense of what Mitch is going with. I'll give you my predictions as well. We'll get into all that in just a moment. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options and treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Man, I'm getting hungry just thinking about that. So head to factormeals.com/lockedon50 and use code LOCKEDON50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LOCKEDONCollege50 at factorsmeal.com/lockedon50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. As I said, I just did a crossover episode with Locked On Mizzou. Go check out Locked On Mizzou. John Miller does a great job with that podcast.
He's got a great voice. Like,
he
just
does.
A perfect radio voice.
Yeah. So check out his work, because I think it's great stuff. So check out Locked On Mizzou when you're done with this episode. Now, it's time for predictions. Mitch and I both picked against BC, I think, against Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch, I'm gonna I think I've jumped and made the picks first, so I'm gonna let you go first here, because I think everyone understands, probably based off of what you were saying, what you're gonna pick. But let's hear it from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Missouri 34, BC 21. So I think BC does cover, and I think that they'll be able to keep this game decently tight into the second half. I think when I looked at it, the first half spread was BC plus 9.5. I like that a lot. I think they could, go into the half, down 3, down a touchdown, and it'd be like, oh, hey, this is a really good game in the second half. I'm sure that BC and Bill O'Brien and Tim Lewis will make adjustments, but I think that Missouri will just be able to get enough explosive plays from their very talented offense. And like you mentioned on that crossover episode, I could even see going into the fourth. BC is down a touchdown or only down 10, and then Missouri gets a quick score, gets another quick score, and then it looks a lot worse than it actually was. But I think this is going to be a very informative game, pretty much regardless of the outcome. We're going to find out how real Missouri is as a top 10 team, and we're going to find out a lot about what BC is and kind of what they can be in the ACC this year. Because if they come out and if they hang tough with an SEC squad right down to the bitter end, then I think we're looking at even if they lose, we're looking at a really strong year. If they are getting ran around the field and just chasing after guys and it's not going well, then we might have to temper some expectations here. But I do think that BC will keep this competitive for the majority of the game and cover the 16 or 16.5 point spread.
All right, I've asked you in text, but give me your percent. What's the odds of them potentially winning this game?
I'm probably like somewhere between like 15% and 25%, which is a lot higher than it was going into the offseason or in the preseason, because I'm pretty sure I had put this at like a 95% chance for Missouri. And a big part of it was just because we didn't know about the secondary. And frankly, I still think we have a lot to learn about the secondary, but they've been very impressive for the most part when called upon this year. So I think this is going to be a big litmus test for them. And we'll kind of find. I think we kind of know. We feel pretty good at Mari Jackson, but again, we're going to find out kind of what's going to go on with these other guys for the rest of the year.
And so it's my turn to make my decision on this. And I've been on enough podcasts and shows to you guys would all call me frauds if I was like, yeah, I think BC's going to win, because I haven't picked them on any of the other podcasts yet. So I've stuck pretty much close to what I think pretty close to what Mitch has said. I think I'm going to go with 34-20 as well.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they'll cover. And as I said I think it was the crossover episode, that I think, as I said, that it could get like 17 points. And I wouldn't touch the spread on this one, because I just feel like Mizzou is just fast enough that they could just score some garbage time touchdown to make it a hard backdoor cover. So I think it's going to be a closer game. And I think BC's going to fight hard in this game. And I think it's not going to be a blowout. I think they're going to have some moments where you think they're really into this game. And then, as you said, I think the athletes in Missouri are just too much.
Yeah.
That being said, I want to continue to reiterate, after this game, I look at the rest of the season and I go, BC could win any of those games.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. One thing I think to watch for is Drinkwitz has, this offense draws inspiration from a lot of different schematic families, but Drinkwitz spent a good amount of time in Boise State, and the offense coordinator Kirby Moore is Kellen Moore's brother, and Kirby played wide receiver at Boise State with Kellen back in the day. And the biggest influence of that scheme you see is a lot of misdirection and a good amount of trick plays. And there was a play I saw on Twitter today from, I think it was Coach Dan Casey, where they had this crazy play where they shifted the quarterback out, or they shifted him back. It was Wildcat. They shifted the quarterback back, and then they ran like a fake reverse. Drinkwitz loves that kind of stuff. So honestly, I could definitely see kind of being the backbreaker in this game, being some crazy trick play that BC scores, or not BC, Missouri scores on, and that's kind of the dagger.
All right. So let's head on out. Mitch, you're going to be at the game, but you have some other news you want to tell people about some content that's coming out.
Yes. So obviously, like I've said, I will be at this game as it's relatively close to where I live. So I'll be there on Saturday. But before that, I will be going to lovely Tulsa, Oklahoma to catch the game between Union High School and Jenks High School, the former of which features Shaker Riesig, who is BC's committed quarterback for the class of 2025. And this is a big rivalry game in Tulsa, I'm told. And apparently Shaker was previously at the other school, then transferred so he could play at Union. So this has some special stakes for him. Also, Ashton Cunningham, a defensive back for Union, is committed to BC. So I'll be going to that game on Friday night, and I'll be interviewing both of those players. Quick interviews, and we'll be putting that up on Eagle Insider. So, quick 5-minute interviews, talk to them about their season, talk to them about BC, what they've liked from Bill O'Brien so far. And we'll have that up on the site, and probably won't have a full game breakdown, but because I want to film the review, but maybe a quick little write-up about how those guys performed and what should be a very, very cool game to watch. And as somebody who's just a football sicko, I'm just very excited to go see a cool game in a unique place.
And then after that, he'll be at the game. So
yes.
we got a lot of Mitch this weekend, folks. So enjoy that. You can check me out on Twitter at AJBlack247. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Go check out. I've had episodes all week. I was with John Miller that I've retweeted. I was on another Missouri podcast. I'm already forgetting what the name of it was. Mitch has been on. Mitch, were you on anything this week?
No, the Mazodcast were cowards and never reached out.
Okay. If you want to go back and have fun, you can find me on the Mazodcast, which I think I'm listed as AJ Brown. You said?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so
noted Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver.
Yes. So you can go back and find that if you want to. But thank you all for listening this week. And the response has been great. And if you're a Missouri fan, I love you guys too. You guys have been crazy. But thank you. We'll be back. I'll be back again on Saturday afternoon after the game to go do a live postcast. Make sure you follow Locked On Boston postcasts. They do Patriots, Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins, and Boston College, and that's where I do my post shows. Make sure you're over there to check that out. For Mitch will be back with me on Monday to talk about the game. We'll start getting ready for the upcoming game against Michigan State. We'll be back soon, and I'll talk to you all then. For Mitch, this is AJ. Thank you for listening to Locked On Boston College, your team every day.